You stupid bitch. Yeah, you're a stupid bitch. You stupid bitch. Welcome to this week's super special 50th episode of Stupid Bitches Say What? The Aussie podcast about everything and nothing, but always with wine. And your hosts, Skye Lee Collett and Sean Hipkins.
Happy birthday to us.
Woo, happy 50th.
This week it's True Crime USA, and very fitting for our 50th episode to be True Crime, as it was the first official episode of our podcast way back on the 5th of October 2021.
Aww.
Listen in as Sean covers the literal bone-chilling case of Thad Phillips. Oh, I'm scared. The young boy who was abducted from his home while he slept in 1995. Eek. And hold on to your headphones for this one. It's a doozy. While I cover the recent murder mystery that was the University of Idaho Murders, where 4 students were fatally stabbed in their residence. But
Why?
But why? By whom? And how did they finally end up catching the killer? Excuse me, we don't know if it's the killer, it's alleged, okay?
Okay, well, look, I don't really know the deets, so I'm glad you're covering this one. I'm intrigued.
Listen in, please. What are you drinking, Sean Bino Hipkins?
Well, because it's our 50th episode,
Woohoo!
thought it was very fitting to open a bottle of Bubs.
It's dumb SJP Bubs, though.
You talked over my pop. Stupid bitch.
You can still hear it. Shut up.
It is dumb SJP, just little SJP Bubs, but I need to drink it. I need to try it. So I thought, why not tonight? Do you know what I did have on the weekend just gone? Was some of Kylie's rosé, Kylie Minogue.
Oh, Kylie Minogue. Oh, yes. And how was it?
It was pretty damn good. So I'd like to feature that in one of our 50 to 100 episodes.
Was it low alcohol?
No.
Oh, thank fuck for that.
That dumb, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm on board with that. She knows what the gays want. Yeah, totally.
So yeah, SJP 7-Lee Prosecco, 7%.
I've got a bit of a cough. Oh, no. Have a little sip for us.
7%. Look, compared to the other shit I've drunk from her brand, it's not too bad. It's a bit sweet, but it's okay for a Prosecco.
But you can't taste the alcohol in it, can you?
No. And what, pray tell, are you drinking, you stupid fucking bitch?
Well, I'm drinking Frexy Ennet. I don't really know how to pronounce that, but this was a gift from you stupid bitch, for Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
It's a little Prosecco Doc, it says here. Sparkling wine. We don't really get a year on these, do we? Do we get a year on them?
SJP. Well, SJP's is a 2021 blend.
Well, this doesn't have. It says established 1861.
Well, it's an old Prosecco.
I don't think it was made then.
Let's hear your pop.
Oh, God, you know I'm not very strong. This is really hard.
I remember this last time, actually.
Yeah, and it took my head off nearly. I nearly died, remember? Oh, yeah. God, it's not coming out.
Twist and pull up.
I am, but it's... I know I'm getting the scares.
The scares. Is there any movement?
Yeah, but I'm really scared because this hand's not... Oh, God, I'm very scared now.
It's moving up. It's starting to lift, yeah.
No, it's not coming out.
I can see it pressurizing.
Oh, God. Oh, God. I can't get it. Hang on, I think I need to get a tea towel. Oh, wait, hang on. I've got something here. Let me see if I can do this. Oh, there we go.
It covered the pop, but it worked.
Oh, that was terrifying. I thought my life really flashed before my eyes right then.
I nearly got taken out by a cork.
When compared to the time that I actually did literally get taken out, remember it just flew through the air and hit the roof?
Yes, definitely a treat for our viewers of YouTube or the Spotify vids.
Get in my belly, Prosecco. Hold on.
That was an excellent pour.
So I just had the bubbles. I haven't had a real sip yet. Give me a second while it bubbles down. Okay, here we go. Let me just turn this stupid bitch of say what around. Here we go. Oh, delish.
Oh, good.
Very delish. Lovely. Very
Cheers
light.
to 50 episodes.
Cheers to 50 years.
To 50 years. It's actually technically our 52nd episode, but the other ones were special. The first one, the Meet Your Hosts, and our special pop culture one. Well, the one where I did Survivor and you did The Undoing.
Just keep it as 50.
I know. Just technicalities, you know.
Sure. So how's your week been, stupid bitch?
It's been pretty good. We caught up with Teresa, our UK friend, last night.
Oh, yes. Hi, Teresa.
Her TB, Financial Times, otherwise known as. And she was in Brisbane with her daughter Fallon. So we caught up with her for some quiet drinks and a good catch up in South Brisbane. So that was nice.
How old's her little girl now?
She's 5.
Oh my God, what a cute age.
She's amazing too. Like she is just her own little personality. She's super sweet, super sensitive. She went to a Frozen party dressed as Wednesday Addams from Wednesday. But that was what she wanted, which I just think is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, me too.
What a cool kid.
Great. Yeah, she is super cool. And her mother and father are also pretty damn cool.
Hi guys.
And our 50th episode. Can you believe it? What a milestone for us.
That's very exciting. Yes, it's such a great milestone to have. Did you think that we'd get to 50 so quickly when we started this?
No, it's amazing.
Back in 2021.
I know, in October. That's what sort of, I guess, sort of blowing my mind is that we're already at 50.
I know.
And soon it'll be 75 and then a fucking 100.
And also, remember when we first did this, we said that we'd be doing it for years and years, and people would be saying, "You're still doing that podcast?" Like, yeah. Like 10 years later.
We have a loyal listener base, thanks.
Well, we're nearly up to 2 years of recording, really, at the end of this year. So, and we're almost, over halfway through February, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we're getting there. We're getting there.
Getting there, Gil. I was going to do a whole, what was your favourite episode? But maybe we'll save that for our 100th episode. We could do a little revisit down memory lane.
So maybe we should.
So, how's your week been? And then we'll get into maths.
Well, look, I really only want to talk about one thing that I'm deeply, deeply concerned about.
Oh dear.
And it's the public health recall on almond milk.
Oh dear.
Have you seen?
No.
Have you seen the news?
I have not seen anything about almond milk. I'm not going to lie.
So for our loyal listeners, you will recall a couple of podcasts ago, I talked about my shift from normal milk to almond milk in my coffees, that I usually have like 2 cappuccinos, 2 mochas or whatever it is that I'm feeling that day a day, especially on a work day. And they've recalled because there's, I don't know, Ebola or some shit in the milk. So apparently it's only one brand, but I don't know what brand they're putting in my coffee.
Oh, of course, yeah. So you don't buy it, you get it from the barista.
Exactly. And if you know anything about almond milk, like, because they're saying it's the long life packets, but that's pretty much all they come in. I actually think there is one version that comes in at like a bottle, but I think that's a really fancy one. So I don't imagine the cafes would be using that one.
Yeah. And you'd think if they were using the brand that was being recalled, they'd have some notice at the front. Hey guys.
I think so too, but I'm still living in fear right now that I might be walking around with Ebola in my body and I might be dying.
I hope not, but I understand. We need to get to 100 apps.
Yeah, I know. Oh God, that's why I've got a bit of a cough tonight. I've got a bit of a
It's the
froggy throat.
Ebola.
It's the Ebola. It's
Stupid
coming for me. It's coming for me.
bit. Stupid bit.
In my arm, that didn't stop me from having 2 almond milk coffees today, mind you, though.
Sipping on it. Interesting. I wonder which one it is.
Okay, so what are we talking about first?
We've got to do maths, I think, because you've. Oh, hang on, you're only halfway up to it.
I'm only up to episode 5. I do feel like
Oh,
there's enough of us for us to talk about,
of
though.
course, of course. So, what was your
Um,
last step?
so my last ep, I didn't watch the entire thing. I'm up to the start of the dinner party, so just before they're about to
Oh,
arrive. But I did. So after my little slap on the wrist last time we did a recording when you said very specifically I need to catch up on Survivor and maths. I
yes.
took those words to heart.
Thank you.
And I did catch up on Survivor, so I'm completely up to date, and I know we're
That's
going to talk
good.
about that next episode.
And I'm just being cruel to be kind.
I know, I get it, I get it. You're just trying to help me. I
Yes, this is for you
understand.
and our
Or,
listeners
although Tyler said to me a bunch of times last night, I can't fucking believe you're making me do this. Bino, ugh, I'm so mad at you.
about
That
maths.
that was Tyler last night. Although he kept tossing over to stop watching it and then would roll back over a couple
Uh,
of minutes later and be like, I hate these people, but we're
this is
still watching it.
100% Vinny. Every fucking time we watch it, you walk past, see it's on and go, you're watching this shit again, then sit down on the couch, complain the whole way through it, but watch every single minute.
So I did the whole fast forward most of the weddings. I watched probably a big chunk of the first weddings, which was
Yes.
Harrison and Bronte and the chick with cystic fibrosis.
Oh, yes, Melinda and Lyndall and Cameron.
Lyndall. I ended up fast. I don't like crying on TV.
Yeah.
That gets me. So I fast forward a lot of that. So then pretty much once the other weddings started, I just fast forward to the honeymoon bits.
We fast forwarded a lot of the weddings too.
Yeah. The whole Indian wedding one, that went on for an unnecessarily long period of time. It was like, we get it. Your parents don't approve. Come on, move on.
Vinny kind of liked that one. He loved to get up for a wedding and everything. He was like, oh, go girl.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm on that camp, but
All right, so you're up to the first dinner party. So let's do a little debrief on the couples then.
Okay. All right, you start. But I haven't seen the dinner party one, so don't give me any spoilers because I will watch them tonight.
Good. Alyssa and Duncan, he's a real tall glass of water.
Oh, yeah, and she's Utah. She's the one that grew up as the Mormon. Yes, I really like them.
He is smoking, isn't he? You see a few shots of him in the coming episodes, doing the typical ironing the shirt with the shirt off. Oof.
Have you Googled him though? Because I swear he used to be on TV as an actor, like on home. I know he's like some security guy now, some security firm or something, but I swear I've seen him as an actor before.
No, I don't know.
And Tyler said to me, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Why would he be on maths? And I was like, well, that's what some of them do.
Yeah. Well, apparently Shannon from Caitlin and Shannon, he was in Home and Away or Neighbours when he was younger. He's the...
the one with the spiky hair that looks like a cockatoo.
Yes.
Yeah. What a galah he is.
I know. And Adam, the guy who has the competition site, she was asking if he was wealthy or not.
The crypto guy?
Yeah.
He's got a bit in the crypto on the go. Yeah.
He's been in Ex on the Beach in the UK thing as someone's ex. There was something else who was on another reality show. A lot of them have done a few things as per usual,
Yes.
But I do not mind. Just bring me the drama.
Well, that's what I said to Tyler. Like, once we fast forward most of the weddings and it all started to kick off, I was like pretty much just screaming gleefully in bed, going, yes, this is my bit. So I was like, the drama's happening. This is what I live for.
I know, dinner party me. And
it was about 11 o'clock when I got to the dinner, 11 when I got to the dinner party part. And I was like, if I start it, I'm going to have to finish it. And it won't be until after midnight when I go to sleep. So I was like, nah, I've got to call it.
And you want to be focusing on it too. You got to give it your attention.
But there's been enough drama leading up.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that soon.
Despite that.
So Alyssa and Duncan, they're nice. vanilla,
Mm.
you know, Bronte and Harrison. You did watch that wedding, obviously. Yes.
So, I wanted to know your feelings on the situation, but can I say one thing
Yeah.
before? And I've seen a little bit in the media about how people want him kicked off because he's such a dirty dog.
Oh, he's a
Um,
douche.
which he is. He reminds me of the Texan from last time, the
Yeah.
total gaslighter.
I'm going to go
Um,
now, Harley.
yeah, and then told her that he didn't find her sexually attractive after they had sex. That's the same thing the Texan did,
Yes.
remember?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How horrible
Um,
is that?
but
Not
how's
yet.
that dumb bitch going up to her at her wedding, who's supposedly her friend, and
I
saying
know.
to her, "Oh, he's got a girl on the outside." Number, it wasn't confirmed. It was her wedding day. It was on TV. If
That's
she really
exactly
cared
why.
about her, like she wouldn't have done that. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's
But
exactly why she did it. Yeah. So have you seen any of the connection about who that chick was and
no, it
stuff?
hasn't got to there. I've got to the bit where the sister rings and says that she was upset about not being asked to be a bridesmaid, and they've come to the conclusion
Yes,
that
she was bitter.
she, yeah, and she did, I guess exaggerated a lot of it. But then also he has sex with her and says, "I'm not attracted to you anymore," and I don't
He's total
understand why you're
douche.
getting upset when I
Yeah.
say that
I'm
to
just being
you.
honest. Just being honest. He so this doesn't come out in the show. This was all stuff like on Maths Funny or Pedestrian TV. So the chick that told her was actually in this year's Bachelor, the one where they had the three guys. But they
Right.
start off the format. I didn't watch it. They started off the format a lot different with this Bachelor, where the three guys sort of met a bunch of women and then gave them a rose. And if they got a rose, they got to go to the house and then explore potential love and whatnot, and then they do the rose ceremonies after that as per normal. She was one of the girls that was in, I think, the first part of it. But when Channel 10 saw her, because she was used in some of the promos of The Bachelor, but when Channel 10 saw her in the promos for Maths, which is Channel 9, doing a breakdown at the wedding, they cut her from the show. So they edited her
Ah,
out. And the chick that she was friends with is one of the chicks who had a bit more of a longevity in The Bachelor. And so
right.
that's how they know each other. And then she's obviously, the other chick is seeing Harrison before he goes in. But you wait, and like this, the last dinner party, oh my God, you were going to be like, yeah. I can't wait for that update.
Well, I just can't get over the pink suit guy.
Oh, Claire and Jesse,
Ah, what a piece of shit is
isn't
he? Like,
he?
I thought when they had the wedding, because I watched most of their wedding, because I was like getting emotional. I was
It
tearing up.
was
I was like,
nice.
they were like the perfect match for
Mm.
each other. And until she turns around and says something about the star sign, his facial expressions
Just
were
drops.
just horrific.
Yeah.
And I was just watching him going, that is so unnecessary to be that upset.
That someone knows their star signs and is into it a bit.
And he was like, once the ick starts, it just grows and grows and grows. And like, once I've got the first ick, everything's about
Fine.
them is gross. And, and I was just like, you're a fuckwit, mate.
And
No wonder you're alone.
I get it. Like because I used to have that 6 week. Well, no, it was actually like a 2 week thing when I'd see people after 2 weeks that annoy me in some way, and I'd be like, "Nah, I'm not invested." But I didn't have a list. That would be something that would be annoying. So I get when someone annoys you, like, nah.
Yeah, and
But
there's definite turn-offs. Yeah, I
mm,
get that too.
but his list was just fucking like, you've just covered pretty much something from
Every chick.
everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody, yeah. But when he said that, and now it's my time to shine, I'm here to shine or something, and she goes, "Fuck yeah, you are." I was like, "Oh my God, Claire,
Yeah.
you're awesome." If I had to
She's
do,
cool as
yeah,
shit. I love the fact that she didn't take his shit too. She
mm.
just got up and said, "You know what? I'm not, you can get fucked. I'm not putting up with this. I'm going." And then she packed her shit and left. And I was like, yeah, girl.
Is
That's what they
this
should all do.
is this when they were on their honeymoon?
Yes.
Is this when he was saying about how she's like, "Oh, look at the sand, look at the beach"? Yeah,
Yes. How brutal was that? And Tyler looked at me and he was like, oh my God, who would say that? That's like, people just say that, like to make conversation or appreciate the beauty when they're in a really lovely situation.
yeah,
Like,
I know.
it was such a low blow.
It's such a
And
douche.
but then she even goes back. So I've seen the bit where she goes to his apartment before the first dinner and says, "Look, I want us to, try again, go in as a team and
Oh
whatever." And
yeah,
he's like, oh yeah, the same, and then he pretty much just like apologizes, but then insults her even more.
Says that, like the reason he's glad she came to him because he doesn't chase chicks or something. She's like, what do you mean? The fuck? And she walks out again.
Oh, I love it. It's just the best.
I know, it is so good. So Caitlin and Shannon, she's that blonde darling heart, and he's the spiky cockatoo guy.
Yes, yep.
So you'll get to see a bit more about what happens there. Janelle
And
and Adam.
what about the which one's Janelle and Adam?
So that's the crypto guy and the blonde Asian.
Oh, and her brother was just absolutely giving him a godful.
What an absolute dickhead.
I was like, do you know what? That would actually, like, when you haven't properly met someone, if someone's that hostile towards you, that would be like, do you know what? I'm actually not interested in getting to know you anymore because your brother's a fucking dick.
Yeah.
And, maybe we could, get along or something, but I'm never going to deal with that fuckwit.
Lyndall and Cameron, the two blondes that I think look quite similar to each other.
I remember you saying that too. I don't know about that, but I do quite like them, but she cries too much for me. I get it. You were sick.
It's sad. But shut up. You've had your moment. So more stuff's come out. So there's, next week they've got the intruder weddings.
I did see that come up. Yes, I did see that come up. And that's always interesting, isn't it? Like that always puts a spanner in everything. But they all look actually quite reasonable looking, whereas last time, remember, it was that older guy with the young chick who had not that young chick, the chick who was almost like she was she was autistic or something, like basically, she had that hot body and a bit of a weird face, but she was like,
did he touch her hand in the bath and she got up and got out or something?
Yeah, like she was like a stunned mullet the whole time, like freaking out about everything. It's like, bitch, you've come on the wrong show, mate.
That guy that she married works in my building, actually.
Well, remember when he got maggot last year and went around to all their rooms and was like completely blind, and then they had to put him to bed and stuff, and you never saw it, but they all talked about it the next day.
And that's when she dumped him. She was like, nah, that's a deal breaker for me. And I was like, yeah, it's a deal breaker for me that you find that a deal breaker. So see you later.
Yeah, see ya, get out.
But one of the intruders, Evelyn, she posted on her Instagram last week or something. She said, I'm posting this before they take control of my account, which is what they do when they go onto TV and start doing their promos and whatnot. She goes, but Lyndall is the bully of the season, the blonde one that married Cameron. I know.
Excellent.
I know. So I can't wait to see how that all plays out. That's going to be good.
Well, it was like the what's her face, Jackson, and what was her name? What was the other one? Jackson and what was the one last year? Last year, who ended up being the bully and looked like butter would melt in her mouth for the first couple of weeks. Olivia, yeah, and then she ended up being the mega bitch. But then also,
I still think Domenica was the mega bitch in that.
I do too. I completely agree. But then she took it too far. Olivia too. She took it way too far.
And Domenica knew how to play it.
Yeah, and she's the one who's got the TV career now. Like she's on everything.
I still can't believe it. I'm just like, you're fake and phony, and I wish I never laid eyes on you. So Melinda and Leighton, Melinda's that CEO that Melissa Bird, the sex freak, was saying to her, are you going to root your husband on the first night? She's like, probably not. Why not? Famous. But they seem quite boring too, don't they?
Yeah. Look, get to the drama, I say.
Same with Tani and Ollie. Ollie's that sort of like, he looks like a
they had sex on the first night.
Yeah, he looks like a little rat bag type of guy, but they seem nice.
Got the big teeth.
Yeah, boring. And then, as we know, Sandy and Dan, that one you were talking about. I've saved the best for last though. Melissa and Josh. What do you think of her?
She's fucking nuts.
Freaking the sheets. She's just got crazy eyes, hasn't she?
She's got, and when I saw she was a hairdresser too, I was like, could you imagine her doing your hair? How much she'd just like, blah, 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 sex, and she's doing your hair, and you'd be like, bitch, please, fuck up.
Have you seen it where she goes for the shower on the honeymoon? They had sex the first night. He said no, they didn't. to the TV people.
I saw because I flicked through all that because I'd sort of seen a bit from social media and stuff, and then I knew basically what the gist of it was, and him rocking out the Toy Story pajamas and saying how obsessed he was with Disney and how he called his kids Elsa and I can't remember
That's
the other
right.
name
Yeah.
I can't remember the other name that he had, but it was based on Disney characters. I was
Yeah.
like, ooh, that's
What
a
a
deal breaker
match.
for me.
Yeah, but what a match too. Let's put a Disney fan in with this fucking sex freak. No
I know.
shaming against sex freaks or whatever, but yeah, she is
Yeah.
just intense with him.
She is crazy intense. And I love that scene where she's talking to that CEO chick and they're
Yeah.
both just like looking at each other
Yeah.
and like got their wines like and then Melissa's just like pretty much sculling her wine.
She seems she's quite stunning too, that Melissa, isn't she?
She's got too much they wear too much makeup and fake eyelashes and
Yeah.
contouring and
I
you
see.
can't really see what they look like.
I'd hope to think that if I was a chick and was able to do that, I'd be like that too. Hey guys.
Do you know how much effort goes into that?
A
Imagine
lot.
having that full face every day to go to work. Like,
Yeah.
come on. It'd take you
Getting up
2
out of
hours
bed.
to get ready. That's not including their hair.
Life of a drag queen, Dals.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So shall we get into it?
Yes, please. Let's start.
All right. So as we know, I'm doing Thad Phillips. Now, Thad Phillips was the victim in this situation, but he gets kidnapped. I don't know whether to tell you the name of what they called the person who kidnaps him. I'm going to. He was dubbed by the media after it all the Bone Breaker. So this is a story I listened to on the train from Strasbourg to Paris on Facebook, one of those not unsolved, one of those crime pages. They play a lot of these videos. So that again, look, I'm not saying I'm an expert. One of our YouTube commenters would also agree with that. I'm not an expert.
Fuck him.
We'll talk about that in the next episode. How's your week been? But I have watched a lot of true crime shows, and it's rare that something this I wouldn't say like out there, traumatic or drastic, hasn't been covered in one of those shows, but I'd never heard of it and it shooketh me. So I knew I had to do it for our podcast.
Ooh,
I had to do it for our podcast. So on the 29th of July, 1995, 13-year-old Thad Phillips was abducted from his home in Wisconsin as he was sleeping on the couch. It was his new home that his family and him had just moved into. I think they'd only been there like a couple of weeks or so. While he was sleeping, someone picked Thad up off the couch. He sort of stirred, but he figured it was one of his parents taking him to bed. Like, you know, when you're that age, you can sleep through thunderstorms right above you. And when you'd wake up, your head's all over the place and shit. Like, you know, you're in a deep, deep sleep.
And there was nothing better than being carried to bed too by your parents.
Totally.
You loved it. You like felt like a baby again. You like you'd fake being asleep so that they would carry you all the way to bed.
Totally. So he wakes up and he's really disorientated, but he realizes he's outside of the house with an unfamiliar older teen boy. The boy seemed friendly, asking if Thad could run with him. So Thad, still sleeping and confused, went with the boy back to his home, and which he claimed to live in with his brother, the older guy. Once there, the teen introduced himself as Joe and told Thad that he was going to throw a party. He listed the names of other boys that Thad knew and said they'd be coming to the party. So I'm guessing, it didn't say what time. I couldn't find what time, but I'm guessing maybe he was having an afternoon nap or the parents went home. So I'm guessing it was maybe like, you know, early evening or something. He then asked Thad if he wants to check out some cool model cars he has upstairs. Thad goes upstairs after the stranger, not knowing that he was about to become victim to the kidnapper known as the Bone Breaker. Once Thad was upstairs, Joe completely shed his friendly teen persona. He grabbed the boy and threw him on the dirty bed, jumped on him and grabbed him by the ankle. He then began to twist Thad's foot around his leg until the bone above his ankle snapped and splintered. With adrenaline kicking in, Thad leaps off the bed and tries to run down the stairs on his broken leg, but Joe catches him and repeatedly punches and kicks the boy until he can no longer put up any resistance. After the initial attack broke Thad's leg near the ankle, Joe throws him onto the couch downstairs. It's at this point that Thad starts trying to figure out an escape plan. He tells Joe that he wouldn't tell anyone what had happened and that he'd say he tripped over a table, etc. But Joe doesn't believe the story will work and denies Thad of any idea that he's going to be able to leave. Thad then attempts to reason with Joe. He's 13 years old, mind you, asking why he would do such horrible things to him, to which Joe responds that he just enjoys the sounds and feelings of a bone breaking due to his action, because he can make it break. So it's a total power trip.
God, you like the sick ones, don't you? This is messed up.
He then tells Thad that he's done this before and starts describing how much he loves it. Over the hours, the beatings continue. At one point, Thad was laying half conscious on the ground and there's a knock on the door. Joe leaves him and goes to the door, and it's his brother's girlfriend. Frightened to do anything, Thad just lays there listening to the conversation. Joe doesn't let her in. He just talks at the door until she leaves. In between his attacks on Thad, Joe pretended to be friends with him. So during this downtime, after the rage had happened and he'd do the abuse, during the downtime, he would carry the boy to the couch so the pair could watch movies together, reportedly talking as if nothing was wrong, everything was all fine, like nothing had happened. What a fucking psychological mind fuck that would be, right? So we'd talk to Thad about his family, his car, how he lived with his brother in his filthy house, and his girlfriend, the one who had arrived at the house. And aside from pretending to act like a friend, Joe also oscillated between causing damage and giving care. So he'd just abuse him, then care for him, abuse him, then care for him. When he finished a session of breaking bones, Joe would take white socks and wrap them over Thad's broken legs until they became thick paddings of fabric. Joe also had a pair of leg braces that he'd put on Thad and then would try to get him to walk. He would then continue the cycle of abuse. Joe would torture Thad for hours at a time. He would severely torment the boy as a way to manage his daily frustrations. In one instance, his car wouldn't start, so he came back into the house, which he always kept locked, and kept Thad inside after threatening him of what he would do or what would happen if he tried to escape. So yeah, his car wouldn't start, and he comes back in and twists Thad's legs until they splintered, then broke the boy's knees and jumped on his chest. When Thad tried to fight back or escape, the torment grew more brutal. Joe would hold pillows over Thad's face in an attempt to suffocate him or just show him that he could do it if he wanted to and that he was in control. The total abuse takes place over approximately 43 hours. Thad would be locked upstairs in the closet by Joe so he could go about his life and daily routine as he usually would. During the day, he would leave to go out and run errands, see friends, and visit his girlfriend. The closet had no light, food, or water, which investigators proposed would cause the captive to become weaker and easier to overpower during the maltreatment. So Thad's 13, Joe's an older teen, so he's much bigger than Thad. But even with this size and age difference, small young Thad makes attempts to try and stop his abuser. During the first attack, Thad fought back against Clark, pushing him away and managing to descend the stairs before the next attack, as mentioned earlier. During his time with Joe, and after all the beatings and torture, blood starts pooling in his body from all the internal injuries he's received. His legs are broken in numerous places, and he's denied food. But yet, during his time there, Thad tries to escape 3 times during his capture. When Joe went to see friends or work on his car, he would leave Thad in the bedroom in the closet upstairs, assuming Thad wouldn't be able to escape, make his way downstairs, and somehow try and call for help. Thad, locked in the closet, would fumble through the dark, trying to find a way to free himself. He eventually uncovers a wooden guitar, which he's able to use to break the door and start his escape. In one instance, Thad had to physically throw himself down the flight of stairs because he couldn't walk and he was in so much pain, and then crawl using only his hands and arms, often in the dark, to try and find help. During the escape, he would then lose consciousness several times and just lay passed out on the floor for unknown durations of time, just due to the pain he was going through, this 13-year-old. After a total of 43 hours, Thad makes one last effort to escape. When Joe had left the house, he throws himself down the stairs again and managed to locate a phone and pull it down off the wall. He dials 911 and tells the police where he was and what happened. The police drive to the location and saved him before Joe returned. So it's funny to have seen an interview where the police officers, when they answered the 911 call, because the kid was so calm and explaining what had happened and everything, they thought it was a prank. So they were like questioning him a lot, and he's like, "Can you please get here? I've got my legs broken, blah, blah, blah." They didn't believe him. So they were arriving to the house expecting there to be no one there. So you can imagine what they thought when they actually did fucking turn up.
What a brave little fucker.
I know, right? So the police drove to his location and saved him before Joe returned home. That's going to be. Thad survived, but not without sustaining permanent injuries.
You fucking oath he did, the poor little fuck.
By the time police came to Thad's rescue, he was nearly dead. His feet were twisted in directions that they shouldn't be. So his foot was pointing the other way. It was pretty fucking brutal. They say he had skin that had like a feeling of rubber, and his toes were also pointing the wrong way. His thigh had snapped, his ribs were bruised and broken, and his arms had been bent and twisted. When he entered the hospital, he had serious, potentially life-threatening internal bleeding. Doctors said that he was possibly hours away from actually passing out before he was found, so he could have died overnight. He received immediate medical care, but to repair his legs and hope to save the boy's mobility, he ended up needing many surgeries over several years. While he was being transported to hospital, Thad tells police how Joe had admitted to harming 2 other boys before Thad. And they keep note of this, please. So authorities fined and arrested Joe, whose full name is Joseph Clark, while he was at a party with his girlfriend. And from there, they began to search his house. Police looked for any indication of previous victims and found evidence suggesting Clark intended to capture and torment more boys. In the house, police located a school notebook which had the names of 18 local boys, including some that Thad knew. The boys' names were in different columns, so he'd itemized them. Get to know, can wait, and leg thing. That was the name of the 3 columns, but the boys were listed underneath. Imagine like when that came out and finding out you were one of the boys on the list, especially if you were one of the boys under leg thing. Just be like, what the actual fuck? So he's basically detailing whether or not Joe could kidnap them soon or later and what he wanted to do to them, showing he had intended to mangle his future victims with the same methods used on Thad Phillips. Investigators were able to uncover other crimes Clark committed against teen boys based on the manner in which Clark wounded Thad. So investigators were able to link him to a 1994 murder of another Wisconsin teen who was in the same town, 14-year-old Chris Steiner. In 1994, 14-year-old Christian Steiner disappeared from his Wisconsin home in the same manner as Thad had in the same town. Authorities believed someone kidnapped the teen, but there was no known suspects at the time. And upon the initial discovery of the boys' bodies, medical examiners determined the cause of death as drowning. So he must have been found in a river. They probably thought his broken bones were from the tide pushing him, or,
Yeah.
After Clark's arrest, authorities exhumed Chris's body and found injuries on his ankles identical to Thad's, determining that his mangled legs had prevented him from swimming. Clark is now also being charged for homicide. Joe Clark. Right before Thad could testify against Joe, 15-year-old Michael Hooch shoots Thad in the back. Thad did not pass from the wound, but the trial was delayed. Now, I can't find really any too much info on this part, like why it happened and whatnot. Poor fucker. But apparently it was a BB gun, and the guy said it was in self-defense. Interestingly, though, this guy ends up going to jail a few years ago for raping a 15-year-old, the Michael Hooch. Despite this, Clark eventually was found guilty and received a 100-year sentence. Later, when the authorities discovered Clark's other victim, Chris Steiner, Clark faced a life sentence plus 50 years. To this day, Clark maintains he has no memory of what he did to Thad and claims,
fuck off.
and claims he is innocent of Chris's death. He later attempted to appeal some of his convictions based on lack of evidence, but the district court dismissed the case. Surgeries and long-term medical care have helped Thad walk and use his legs again, though he still retains a limp. He also sued Joe Clark and won the total payment amounting to $21 million. In an interview, Thad said he most vividly remembers the feeling of friction in his broken leg bones as he tried to get away, but the pain did not eclipse the sensation of it all. So yeah, that's
How old
that.
is he now, Thad?
So he was 13 in 95. So he's what, 5 years younger than me. So he'd be 40.
Yeah.
Crazy,
That's really
hey?
awful. And where's old fuckwit
He's in
Clark?
jail. In jail,
But he
rotting
didn't get.
away.
They're not going to give him the death penalty yet or anything for the other one that he killed.
Well, I don't know if they've got it, if they have the death penalty in Wisconsin.
Jesus Christ, that's some sick fucking behavior.
But yeah, I mean, how do you get to that stage where you enjoy the fucking sensation of breaking someone else's? Oh,
It's like anything real. It's like any of these murderers
where
that we
they
talk
like
about.
the
The
screaming and the
sickness,
fear and
the ones that are the real sickos that do the stuff that they do, like that is messed up.
I know, when I was listening to it on the train, I was just like, oh my God, oh my God. How have I never heard of this? All right, you stupid bitch. I thought you'd like that bone breaking discovery of
That was
mine.
horrific. That
I'd
was
never heard
really
of it.
fucked up.
I'd never heard of it. I tried to get Vinny interested, but he was not. And I've never seen a special about it on TV either, which is strange. But the reason why I thought, even though it is brutal and it involves a child, is that he lives. So that sort of had a bit of
Yeah, but I am shocked as well that they haven't made a movie out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
like based on that.
yeah, because it's a
Yeah.
horror, like it would be a horror movie. Like I can't believe that no one's brought the rights and been like, hey, watch this movie. It's fucked
Yeah.
up.
Instead of Thad, it's Chad. We could do it.
Sure, you should tell the production crew.
West Gum. West Gum, can we do a bone breaker movie,
Oh, I don't
please?
think I could do a movie like that. That's too horrific.
All right. So now I'm very intrigued about this one. I've seen so much of it in the media, on social media. I've never invested myself into reading it because I knew one of us was going to cover it at some point. I'm glad it's you because I'm sure there's a lot to fucking get into.
Yeah, look, and there's so much about this case. It's very hard to string together because a lot of it is protected information, and most of what I could locate is pure speculation. So it's really hard to determine the truth from the facts at the moment, especially until it goes to court, right?
Yeah.
But not to be disrespectful to the family and everything that's happened, but it does seem like a version of Scream. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
well, in terms of like college kids, brutal murders,
Yeah.
a bit of a whodunit, like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I think it will be very interesting to see how this one unfolds.
Mm.
But it's, like, I'm not, okay, I'll get to
Okay, let's go. Yeah.
where we discuss it. Okay. So, 3 months have passed since the quadruple murders of 4 Idaho college students. If you've been living under a rock, you may not know that the 4 young adults were murdered in their off campus apartment in Moscow, Idaho, in the early hours of November 13th. So, Zana Knodel, Ethan Chapman, Kaylee Goncalves, and Madison Mogan are all aged between 20 and 21 years of age. The murders have rocked the US, with law enforcement stating it's the worst crime they have ever seen.
Jesus.
What we do know is all 4 victims were brutally stabbed to death. This happened obviously just before Christmas last year, and I remember it popping up on something on my feed, and I was like, what's this? And I remember looking at it going, oh, fuck, that's hectic. Like 4 college students are murdered in their own house brutally. They don't know who did it. They had no leads really to determine who was responsible for it.
Yeah, I remember seeing that too, that it was just so much confusion around what the fuck had actually happened.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's going to play into what I'm going to talk about. And I was quite obsessed with it. And I remember talking to my friend Amanda's daughter Tori about it, and her and I have become quite obsessed. And every time we see something new about the case, we send messages to each other and like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Because we're both really, but there's not really much new stuff coming out because it's all so locked down, right?
Yeah.
So Maddie and Kaylee were best friends. Hang on, just let me. Sorry, give me a sec, because you're there, I can't get my page up. What's happening? Hold on. Hold. Hang on, you might have to skip this. Done. I don't know what's happening. Okay. Maddie and Kaylee were best friends. They'd gone to school together. Hang on. Maddie and Kaylee were best friends. They'd gone to school together and lived together, although Maddie had recently moved out after landing a marketing job that was to begin the following year. She was visiting the home that they once shared. Ethan and Zana were in a relationship. Zana had had a tough upbringing, with both of her parents serving prison time for drug use and possession, and she bounced around from house to house. She was said to be in love with Ethan, as he was with her, and had recently become close with his family. Ethan came from a family of tulip farmers, and a neighbour was quoted as saying he had the kindest soul of anyone he'd ever met.
Bless him.
Whilst there is not much known about the method or specifics of the murders, there's no doubt that it was a brutal scene. What the public knows about what happened does not come from the girls or Ethan, obviously, but from an affidavit to arrest their alleged killer. So two of the housemates, that the surviving housemates.
Were they there at the time?
Yes, they were there at the time.
Wow. Because they came under suspicion as well, didn't they?
Yes, as did the parents. So Maddie's dad, I think, as well, had some drug convictions or was involved in some type of drug thing. So there was at a time where they thought it was drug related. That was one lead they were pursuing. And because Zana, it's Xana. I don't know if the pronunciation is Zana or Zana or what it is.
Yeah.
But her parents also have a colourful past, so they were exploring that as a possible lead.
As lead, yeah.
So as the girls wound down and went to bed, this is the other housemates, the ones who were alive.
Yeah.
A white Hyundai Elantra passed back and forth in front of the house. All this is alleged, right? So what you've got to remember is this is things that people think have been said about the case and are sharing with the media, or people are writing their own synopsis of what's happened, but very little has been released by the prosecutors and the investigators about what's happened. So Bethany slept on the first floor of the house, so she survived, in a sub-basement built into a hill. Dylan, another housemate, a girl, had a bedroom on the second floor, the same level as Zana's. One floor above that was Maddie and Kaylee's room. Maybe the person in the Elantra could see the lights go out one by one as they all started to settle down. In any case, the car stopped circling the block around 4 a.m. and parked outside. From the back of the house, a sliding glass door opened into the kitchen and would have revealed a big buffet.
Yep.
There was a beer pong table that was set up in one of the areas. So it was a party house, right? It was like a college kid's house. So Dylan, one of the surviving girls, woke around 4 a.m. to what sounded like Kaylee playing with Murphy on the floor above. Now, Murphy was her dog. Right. They weren't allowed to have dogs in the house, but he became like one of the family sort of thing. And so they reckon that the landlord sort of turned a bit of a blind eye to having the dog there. They normally wouldn't have a dog in the house. Then it sounded like one of the girls said, "There's someone here." Dylan opened her bedroom door but saw nothing and went back to bed. When she heard crying coming from Zana's room, followed by a male voice saying something to the effect of, it's okay, I'm going to help you, she opened her door again and saw nothing.
Jesus.
At 4:17 a.m., the dog started...
freaky.
I know. The dogs... This is what I'm saying. It's like Scream. It's like a movie version of Scream. At 4:17 a.m., the dog started barking upstairs. Neighborhood cameras picked up what sounded like whimpering, followed by a loud thud. When the crying continued, Dylan opened her door for a third time. Sorry, I'm just going to get my notes down. The computer's being weird. For a third time. In the darkness, Dylan then saw a stranger in black clothes, his face covered except for his eyes. She noticed his bushy eyebrows. She stood there frozen as the stranger walked past her.
So he didn't see her. Did he see her then?
He saw her. They saw each other. And the police later found a shoe print right outside her doorway. That was like not a shoe that was recognized.
So he
Right?
specifically went in to kill those 4 people.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
It was all over in about 15 minutes. So what happens? So there's some speculation about what happened. So Dylan, who saw the intruder and had heard the disturbance, but she thought it was people upstairs, mucking about and partying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She didn't call 911 until hours later. They woke up to discover that the aftermath of what they had heard in the night.
Jesus.
In the kitchen, red liquid dripped down the cabinets, coming from the direction of one of the 3rd floor bedrooms. So, like, blood had seeped down.
Oh, God.
Off the hallway lay Ethan and Zana. On the exterior of Zana's bedroom wall, there was more red blood that dripped down the concrete foundation. Maddie's body was sprawled beside Kaylee's. Investigators later called it the worst crime scene they've ever seen.
Oh,
one of the surviving roommates fainted, the other hyperventilated. They were unable to speak coherently to the 911 operator. What the call was originally filed as was an unconscious person because they really didn't know what had happened.
What was going on, yeah.
So this is basically all we know, and that's pieced together from bits and pieces. Real hearsay, really. But it's obviously true that there's 4 murdered college students, yeah?
Yeah.
So the arrest of Brian Christopher Koberger came almost 7 weeks after the murders were committed. By all accounts, Koberger is a weirdo, a loner, and considered creepy. There are multiple stories from peers, colleagues, and fellow students about how he made them uncomfortable. He was cautioned at a local brewery, so it was like a local bar, brewery sort of thing, for allegedly making weird comments to girls and being awkward. There are tales of him taking great satisfaction from marking papers in his role as a TA, a teaching advisor, and providing over-the-top criticism and feedback, littering the students' pages with post-it notes about things that they needed to fix, and overall being too severe.
Yeah, so he worked at the uni then?
He did, but he was sacked just before, So he was arrested on December 30th and extradited back to Idaho from Pennsylvania. So he was at school in Idaho, but he lived in Pennsylvania.
Did he? Did they say why he was sacked or anything?
I'll get to that because there's a little bit. Again, it's all because there's no court case yet and there's no witness statements that are official. It's all based on hearsay at the moment.
They don't like that shit getting out in the media while the trial's going on because of the jury influences and all that shit.
So what I found quite frustrating is the media's considered him guilty. Yeah. They are absolutely certain that he is the culprit. The police obviously believe that, and they have some level of evidence that means
suggests so,
he can be charged with these crimes, right? Yeah. So he's been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary. So the preliminary hearing is set for June 26. His family continue to proclaim his innocence. He also denies the murders and states he's waiting eagerly for the trial to clear his name. He believes he will be exonerated. His family have no plans to hire an attorney. They're very poor. They've been declared bankruptcy twice.
Oh, God.
And they're waiting for a public defender to be allocated to them, again, allegedly. From what I read, no one's come forward and offered to represent him, which is strange, right? Because usually you find people coming straight to the aid of the bad guy to try to make their name, whether they're innocent or not. So no one's come forward, allegedly. He's seen mouthing "I love you" to his parents and 2 older sisters as he's led from the courtroom. Police have not yet established a motive.
God.
Yeah.
And that's what you'd usually get, is establishing a motive first to be able to link someone to the crime.
So as I mentioned before, I've been talking to my friend's daughter about it quite a lot, and I said to her, she's like pretty much she thinks he's the guilty party. I'm not convinced. So when I started researching this, and I'll talk about some of those points in a minute, when I started researching this, my gut feel from what I'd seen in the basic stuff that I'd looked at and things that I'd read is that yes, they might have some evidence against him, but I feel like the police have to solve this. There is
Yeah.
no option. It's such a big deal at the moment. Well, of course,
Worldwide.
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's being watched so carefully. They have to find a culprit, right? They can't let someone potentially who'd murder 4 people in
Still
one
be
night
out on the
still
streets.
be out on the streets, yeah.
Mm.
But they'd also have to have some level of evidence to accuse him. I'm certain of.
Yeah,
Um,
of course. Yeah, they'd have
there
to.
are reports. So the white Hyundai is a car that he drove. There are reports that he may have been stalking the victims. That hasn't been firmly confirmed
Confirmed.
formally.
Yeah.
And there's also talk that there's DNA. But the prosecutors are staying tight-lipped about the details, which is understandable.
Yeah.
What I find fascinating is
So
that
why do you think he's not?
it's not that, like, so when I researched it today, everything that I found is all skewed towards him being the culprit. And there's multiple stories of people saying, I met him and he creeped me out. I had a conversation with him in the cafeteria and he said something weird and I just felt really weird around him. But it's funny. It's like, to me, it just seems like real high school stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When, like, as soon as someone is accused of something, everyone comes forward with their own
Yeah.
versions of that story to say,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I saw something weird from him and I saw something weird from him and no, I saw something weirder. And
Yeah.
there's all this
Being
stuff.
different doesn't make you a killer.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So the authorities are hell-bent on tying him to other murders as well. They've been looking through all these cold cases where the height, weight, methodology of killings and other identifying characters could be a factor in identifying him in other crimes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, look, and I know I haven't seen it, The Making of a Murderer,
That's
but
what I
you and
was
I have
thinking of
talked
too.
about it.
I was going to say to you,
But
have you seen that yet?
no, it seems, just from what I've seen, and the fact, look, and we've seen we've researched and we've talked about some crazy crimes before. The fact his family's right behind him, and he walks into the courtroom and he claims his innocence, and he looks back at his family and says, "I love you" to the family.
Mm.
I don't know. There's something about that says to me that's just not the behavior of someone who's guilty.
Yeah.
And look, it's all going to come out anyway, and we're going to see it. So from June 26th, that's when
Oh,
the
okay.
first of it will start coming
Wow.
out.
So we'll have to do an update after that.
Yes, and to see what evidence they actually have against him. And look, you look at him; he looks like he could be a creepy guy, but he also just looks like a dude. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? Like, but
Mm.
he's definitely got the bushy eyebrows.
Yeah.
But it's come out now, allegedly. Again, everything's like alleged. Like every single article I've read is someone said this, he allegedly did this, he may have done this, there may be something that he done relating to this, but there's nothing confirmed whatsoever.
Yeah.
Which would happen in these types of cases, right? So
Yep.
it's hard to say. But multiple sources have reported that authorities are convinced that he has killed before.
Wow.
The only bad thing that popped up on his record, and it's not really a bad thing, is of him making a 911 call after his car ended up being accidentally locked behind a gate. He's heard on the call apologizing for making the call to get his car out and causing any inconvenience. He also applied for an internship with the police. In his application, he stated he wanted to help law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. He was a PhD student and held a position as a teaching advisor, which he was sacked for before the murders.
Yep.
But pretty much all the stuff I've read online about him is about him being a bad guy, is allegedly written from anonymous sources. And of course, people don't want to share their identity in situations like this because they're scared of the ramifications. But again, it's all
Hearsay.
anonymous sources.
Yeah.
They're all coming out of the woodwork with all these claims. Why weren't people talking about this before the murders, saying what a creep he was and how awkward he made them and making complaints against him if he was that bad?
Yeah. I know what you mean. It also has, it's reminding me of a case that I've spoken to you about as well. And it's actually a trilogy of it's a trilogy of documentaries basically. So it's called Paradise Lost: The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills in America, in a
Ooh.
small town. It's incredible. So I don't know if I want to say too much because I might do it for our next
Mm,
US true
mm.
crime one. But it was three young boys. Their bodies are found hog-tied in a river,
Oh
with
God.
some shit done to them, and then two guys are charged. One guy, well, three guys are charged for it. Kids, older teens. One of them has like an IQ of about 70 or something like that, or 50, or like quite low. He's not a very intelligent man.
Mm.
And he ends up going through, when police do um interrogations that go for like 24 hours.
And
And
then they end
then,
up breaking them from just the fact of
yeah, just through saying
drilling
stuff.
them.
So the guy with the very low IQ ends up just saying, yep, it was these other two kids, blah, 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 in his stupidity, thinking he'd get him out. But of course, he's tied into it. So these three teens go to court, go through all this. Same thing happens. There's people that go up there and give evidence because they listen to Metallica. They listen to heavy metal. They then associate it to fucking witchcraft and worshipping the devil and all this stuff. And Metallica are actually one of the bands that get behind the production of this documentary to try and get these kids out of jail because they were
Mm,
charged, and
it
they
was
were formally
bullshit.
charged with it. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's heavy viewing, but definitely worth the watch.
You,
I'd
you
love to
guys
watch
watch
it with you.
so much true crime.
Kylie got me onto this one actually, and I'd love to watch it with you, but it would literally, like I said, it's a trilogy. So, and they're set like years apart.
Mm,
It happened
mm.
in '94. Yeah.
So look, I think my gut feel from the very beginning, as soon as I found that, because I remember Tori messaged me and she said, "Oh my God, they've arrested someone." I was like, "What the fuck? Send me everything that you have on it."
I need deets,
So she
stat.
sent me everything, and I watched it all. And I watched him at the arraignment, like go through and turn back and look at his family and look really worried. Not, I wouldn't say really worried, like just a bit of fish out of water, like really
Yeah.
not knowing what was happening, like not understanding what was going on. And then also his family looking really worried, and him looking back at his family going, "I love you." And I was like, oh, in my gut, I
Is it
just get
real?
a really bad feeling about this, that this kid, and look, we've seen some horrible cases where people can get away with anything and then still get away with it. But
And if he is a
um,
serial killer, like if he's attached to any of those other ones, like they're incredible narcissists and they know
yes,
how to control their emotions and all that stuff. And,
absolutely. But
Ted Bundy was the loveliest man.
if he could do that, why are they all coming out saying that he's this massive weirdo too? Do you
Mm,
know what I mean?
mm,
Like he obviously gave off a weird vibe to a degree.
true. Yeah.
So it could be part of his MO, like who knows? Like it
Who
could be
knows?
part of the picture that he's painting. Maybe it was really calculated. The other thing that I find really fascinating is that in a short space of time, one person can overpower four people in their 20s
Yeah.
without anyone else in the house knowing what's happening. So I felt from the very beginning that it was a couple of people, or at
Hmm.
least two.
Yeah.
Because the girls were sleeping together in the same room, and the girlfriend and boyfriend were together in the same room. Plus, the dog was there, and the dog was unharmed.
I was
So
going to ask, did the dog survive?
the dog survived. So the dog was heard whimpering, and there's a bit of that, and there was a little bit of barking, but there was no like aggravated barking. Like, and you
Yeah.
know how loyal dogs are, especially a well
Mm.
loved and looked after dog. Like, the dog wouldn't let people sleep all night either. Do you know what I mean? Like if the people were murdered, the dog would be like
Barking and do
screaming
we
like,
know? Do we know what type of breed of dog it was?
oh, I think it's written, but I don't have it here.
Because I wonder if it's like a
Um,
small dog or something, so it couldn't
yeah,
really do much.
but I don't know. It all
And sorry, and you know how like some dogs can be just complete pussies too, so it might have run under the bed whimpering when it happened, or
true, true, but
mm,
it all seems very sus to me. Like I think they've found someone to pin it on,
and they're
um,
going with that.
and it could very well come out that. But then I wonder as well, why are they going through all the cold cases trying to pin him on
Mm,
something else?
Because then they can
Like,
mark them as solved, and they're the
yes,
heroes, and yeah,
yes, but also it strengthens their case as well. Like maybe
yeah,
they don't have a lot of information and they're trying to find a way to pin him to something else to make the case more. But there's an interesting thing, and again, this is all alleged stuff. This is all things that they're saying, anonymous sources and things that have come out. But apparently, he did have an altercation with a professor where they were yelling at each other and getting upset, and then that's part of the reason that he was fired. They also talk about the Bluetooth that was
right,
connected in one of the girls' rooms, and they're saying that everyone has a mobile phone these days and
mm,
stuff like that, and surely that would come out, like it might have tried to connect
yeah.
to his phone when he came through. And I was like, I don't know if Bluetooths are that reliable. You know what
You
I'm
usually
saying?
have to
Like,
push the button on the back for it to connect, unless you already know it. And yeah, I don't think that's a
yeah,
strong force.
I know. So there's lots of stuff that's coming out like that. Like everyone wants to pin it on this guy. The whole hype around it is finding any type of evidence to make him guilty,
Yeah,
as opposed to, you know, what the facts are, which again we don't know. We won't know. So they
yeah,
must have something to tie him in,
yeah.
right?
Of course, to be able to make the arrest in the first place. But that's one of my greatest fears, is like being charged for something this drastic as well, where you are completely innocent and no one believes you, or you're just pinned on. It's just pinned on you. It would be the most horrendous thing, and I would hate to think he is innocent going through this and he ends up getting charged for it. But it happens a lot.
It does. It does happen a lot. And there's reports of him sliding into girls' DMs and saying
But that
things and
happens
stuff
a
like
lot
that.
with
I know, and it's
everybody.
like,
Yeah.
but there's all, like, if you search anything relating to this, it's all about all the things that have happened allegedly from anonymous sources
Yeah.
about how he's guilty.
Wow. So no
And
actual proof, or
so there's one thing, and it says
just hearsay.
he's an insomniac. So he was up at all hours. He
If you're going to
obviously,
murder somebody, it's not based on the fact that you're awake at all hours or what time it is. If you're going to murder someone, you'll stay up till whatever time, if it's in your head, I'd imagine.
yeah, and they're convinced that he acted alone as well, which again,
Mm.
I don't know, it doesn't add up to me.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand. Like, I guess if two people are in a room, if you stab one and the other so that the other one's
Very
wounded straight
quickly,
away.
yeah, in the right
Um,
spot.
but it sounds like it's a pretty brutal fucking situation. And like, it was three girls and a guy, and they were both in pairs. It's just
You'd
bizarre.
have
But
to know what you were doing. You'd have to know exactly where to hit them at the right
yeah,
moment to be able to get them, to like incapacitate them enough to move on to the next person when they were together in the same room.
and you'd think
That's what doesn't add up to me. I'm
yeah,
thinking it's two people. It
and
has
you'd
to be
think
two
the
people.
other person that was in the room that wasn't getting stabbed at first, when they wake up to it, would scream.
Mm.
Like absolutely fucking off their head. Like, it sounds like one of them saw the person first and said, "There's someone here," to the person that was next to them or other person in the room. So it's like this
Yeah.
time you'd think they would be screaming or yelling, but the
But
fact that
the thing that I think is really sus as well, I think the dog thing's really sus. I think them being subdued so easily in such a short
Miles,
space of time, to the point that there's no survivors. Like there was no missed,
yeah,
knifing or anything like that where they missed major arteries and they still managed to survive it, or
yeah,
play dead to a degree or anything like that. But the girl who saw him in the house, he was wearing a balaclava.
yeah.
She just saw the bushy eyebrows and she just assumed,
That's strange
allegedly,
too, that he walked past, looked at her, and didn't do anything to her.
and they didn't do anything about it. And this is what I think,
You wonder if
like,
that person actually has a connection to them.
yes, it was one of the girls, but I still think that's very sus. Like, apparently, what they're saying now is that she obviously assumed it was a bit of a party house. It was a party person, like mucking around or something like that, wearing the balaclava and on his way out and just being a bit silly, and
You
that's why
would
she
still
wasn't
be shit
frightened.
scared.
Yeah, I feel like if that was my house and I saw someone and I heard some weird noises in the middle of the night, the first thing I'd be doing is ringing my mum and dad and being like, guys, come over.
Just FYI,
Like,
yeah. And especially if it is a party house, if there's no music and no party and someone's walking around in a balaclava, it still would raise a bushy eyebrow.
Yeah. But you can see why it's like hooked me, right? You
Yeah,
can see why I'm
totally.
just like, so you should have a little bit of a look into it and
I
see what
will
you
now.
think based on the facts, because it all seems incredibly fishy to me.
It does sound bizarre, and the fact that she survived after opening her door 3 times,
Mm.
looked at the killer's eyes, he looked at hers, and I mean, she can't give any description of the killer, so it's
Hmm.
easy for her to
So it's
say,
easy, isn't it? It's easy for
yeah,
her to say, I didn't see anything because all I saw
yeah,
was bushy eyebrows. But then the other thing as well is like, they're so focused that this guy is definitely the murderer. If they're wrong, there's someone else out there
still doing
and
it, yeah, or out,
potentially could get away with it, or could be, in
yeah,
another country, or like, you know, cleaning stuff up and hiding all the
speculation,
evidence.
yeah,
And
and
yeah.
it does sound like that the Dylan could have potentially known it and knew it was happening and was involved in the setup of it and is able to get away with it by saying, oh, I saw him, but I couldn't see
Mm,
him.
yeah.
Interesting.
Again, like Scream, the movie. You never know who done
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
too many
yeah.
things. Like it's always the obvious person, but it's not.
And then it ends up being the obvious person. Yeah,
Yeah, they think they know who the killer is, but it's not that person until that fucking mask comes off, or the balaclava in this
at the end.
situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
roll on Scream 6, hey?
I know, I can't wait. I'm so excited. It looks so bad. I've seen a couple more trailers since the train one, and it
Yeah,
looks freaky. Have you seen the one where they're on the ladder trying to cross the
I
buildings?
haven't seen any of the trailers except for the train one where it's in New York, where Scream goes to New York,
Well, there's
basically.
more out, and there's one where they're in like a building that's quite high up, and they're like,
Mm,
we can't get out. There's no way out. Like we can't go down. Like, and
God.
that's why they end up on this ladder that bridges the buildings. And one girl's like trying to climb the ladder, and she's already covered in blood.
Oh, and then you see Ghost Face appearing behind. Oh,
Yeah, it
God.
looks insane.
Yeah, cannot wait.
Anyway, so that's pretty much what I've got.
Oh, very good.
I scoured every piece of information, but like I said, most of it was alleged from
Mm,
anonymous
mm.
sources.
And it will be until you said the case goes to trial in June.
Yeah,
We'll
I'm
definitely do
dying
a
to
follow up.
know. Yeah,
Definitely do a follow up, even
I'm
if it's in
dying
What's
to
the
know
Haps
what they have on him, though. Dying to know what
mm,
evidence they have. Like, I can't wait to
to
hear
pin
that
it to him.
piece.
Yeah. I'd imagine the footprint would have something to do with it.
Mm.
Somehow it has to. Because if he
Mm.
doesn't match the footprint, then.
But how many kids wear the same shoes as well?
Oh, yeah, totally. But that, like, he obviously has to match the footprint in some way.
But if it was a
Yeah.
party house, it could be anyone's shoe.
Well, this is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is true.
It's very, very intriguing. But we'll see. Another couple of months and we'll get a little bit more of the story, I think.
A little bit more dates. Love it.
Well, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode of International Crime. Next stop for this special is Oh Canada.
4 weeks' time. Tune in next week as we dive into the pool of Hollywood royalty for pop culture. Remember to join us on all our socials at Stupid Bee Say What, and check out our YouTube page too. We could do with a few more subscribers there, thanks. And remember, if you're whining, you're winning. Good night, you stupid bitches.
Good night. And we love your YouTube comments. Keep them coming.
Ah, yes, thanks, mate. An essay. Yeah, that stupid bitch. He's a stupid bitch. What a stupid bitch. That stupid bitch.